and welcome to the GI Podcast. I am your host, Sid Haig.
And I'm Tobin Rossico.
And today we are joined by Joe Tu, who is a PhD student pursuing a degree in systems design engineering, and who is very passionate with measuring physiological measures, emotions, and within games user research. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So is there anything else you would like to add to that? Of anything else you want to introduce the audience?
I think you've nailed everything spot on, and I'm excited to be here.
Fabulous. All right. So we have an opening question that we typically ask all of our guests on this podcast. What is your earliest memory or experience with gaming? So this can be video games, board games, card games, any type of game you can imagine.
Ooh, I love this question. My first experience to gaming was the N64 console. It's basically this weird contraption on the controller. It has like 3 sticks that's pointing out.
Yeah.
The weird M controller.
Yeah. And my first game was actually Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh, okay.
It's a very classic old game. Really loved that, and I fell in love with that system. And I eventually got into Mario Party and Super Smash Brothers. The best one there. Yeah.
The best one on the N64?
Yeah. I would argue.
You might be the only person I've ever heard say that.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody always says Melee.
I don't know. 64 is the kind of like Kirby's like the go-to.
Oh, well, Kirby's always the go-to. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say N64 Smash is the... Right.
The superior
hot takes.
Smash.
You heard it here today.
Yeah, hot takes. Definitely hot takes.
Is there a reason why you would prefer that over the newer Smashes that are coming out now?
I think it's just nostalgia. Simple controls, not too complicated. It gets you straight into the game. You don't have to do any of these. People are gonna hate me for saying this gimmicky stuff.
Yeah. No, it's true though.
Yeah.
It's just like, I feel like that's that one game I've never really picked up. It's like Smash has always been like the party pleaser, but I'm just like, I feel like I'm button mashing all the time, and it just that's what it is.
That's the fun part though.
Do you go to Mario Kart then? Is that your...
I do like Mario Kart.
Or
it's
Mario
just
Party?
like I once I figure out the controls, I don't think a lot about trying to configure the perfect cart because that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just like, I'll go with what I think is easiest and let everyone kill each other. So, and then I can just, zoom on through.
Yeah. The min-maxing of Mario Kart ingredients is fascinating. Because when you watch the speed run, you're like, that's the best cart? Whatever. All right. N64. Great. So let's go back to your kind of schooling. Where'd you do your undergrad? Because you're doing a PhD now.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you do undergrad, masters? What was your focus on? Kind of how did you get to the point of what you're researching now?
So like the start of my journey, basically.
Yes.
The start of
Your call to adventure.
The start of Joe.
I think to tie into research term, the hero's journey.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I actually did all of my degrees here at Waterloo.
Yeah.
That's the way to be.
Yeah.
The Triple Crown. Yeah,
Triple
Sid,
Crown.
you're doing that too.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I like it.
So I guess to start, I actually started in CS.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I applied here, got into the program. Didn't like it as much, sitting all day in second year. And I said to myself, that's not what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Grad school, it's better. Well, guess what? We're sitting again. So then finished my second year in CS, said to myself, this isn't for me. Switched programs, switched 3 times actually.
Wow.
Whoa.
And then to my final program, I decided on, fine arts to be exact, because I wanted to go into architecture.
Very cool.
And they required that degree requirement. I met Leonard, who is my current supervisor, in the last year of fine arts, and he was teaching a games course, which got me interested into the Games Institute and all that research and all. And he told me, "Hey Joe, by the way, you can study games." I did not know that existed back then, so that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Then he invited me to do my master's here, and I stayed here at the GI. Great facility, by the way. Hopefully you're going to ask me about that later.
We will. We'll get to the GI.
And then told myself during the pandemic I was going to take a break, which I did. And I came back to do a PhD, which is probably a regretful decision for now. But yeah, that's pretty much the story of the Triple Crown here.
Triple Crown.
Oh,
I love
so
hearing,
interesting.
especially about the Triple Crown. It's fascinating. I guess I've done 2, one, and I'm working on a degree here. But I can't imagine staying here for all 3. But
I think it just makes sense because for me, it was maintaining the research network I had already built up here, and that just made more sense to maintain the ties I already had rather than trying to start from fresh, essentially.
And I guess if you link up with somebody like Leonard, or for us with Neil, it's like, why are we going to go somewhere else? This is like the best of the business. Because I didn't realize this, but when we started talking to Leonard more on the podcast and interviewing his underlings, I don't know, his proteges.
Oh, I like that word.
Like, I didn't understand the scope that Leonard has globally in terms of his outreach and like the network that he's a part of, right? So you definitely are hitching yourself to the right wagon.
Yeah, so what part of the games research really appealed to you? Was it just the act of getting to play games and being paid for it? Or was there something that really kind of drew you in? Especially since you have a little device here to show us.
Well, for the viewers that can't see, I'm hooked up to a heart rate, so both Sid and Tobin can see my current heart rate.
Yeah, and it's rising.
It's going up.
So I'm kind of nervous to answer this question. I originally approached Leonard to study emotion in games because that's what his expertise is in.
Yeah.
During my master's, I wanted to focus on the board game, the tangibility aspect, so that was the most important for me. But COVID hit.
Right.
And
you couldn't play board games with people.
Yeah, you can't. I couldn't run the study. The ethics wouldn't let me recruit people.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had to wear a mask, and part of board games, the facial aspect is very important.
Yeah.
So Shift Wagons, I messaged this company called GatherTown.
Okay.
They're still in the early alpha days, and I'm like, hey, I want to do research. They're like, cool, sure, we'll offer you whatever you need, and we kind of just took it from there. I just did research on that area. If not sure if that.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
So what about, I guess, why board games rather than video games, right? Like, is it just because there's things that video games do to kind of the physiological elements of someone other than board games, which are perhaps seen as kind of more calm and
that's a good question.
Differently paced?
I'm going to need some time to think about that one.
Well, because it's so interesting.
Or is it the community?
Yeah, because it's also just like board games have a different physical aspect, I feel, with trying to bring people together. Whereas for me, with video games, I'm like, it's solo or nothing.
Well, yeah, that's how I feel too.
That's a good question, Tobin. That's a really good question. I also need to answer this for the PhD.
I mean, we can workshop it here.
Oh yeah.
We're only 8 minutes in. We can keep.
Let's start whipping out the whiteboard here. I'm gonna start, taking notes here. But why board games? I think the social aspect matters the most for me. Just seeing everyone's faces here. Yeah. Digital games, I still do play digital games, but it's more of like that connection for people that I can't meet up with. I'm gonna say this. We're a bit older now. With a grain of salt, and we have less time to play. Yeah. And I miss that nostalgia feeling of just sitting at a table, having everyone. Yeah. And seeing everyone's faces.
Yeah. So what are you essentially trying to look for when you're getting the emotions? Like, we have the heart rate monitor, and I was part of an early test for that current project, which is where you had a bunch of us all hooked up to heart rate monitors. We had the display on a phone in front of us, but we personally couldn't see our own heart rate, but we could see everyone else's around us. And essentially it was more or less a social deception of trying to weed out, because we were playing, what game were we playing at that time?
I believe it was Avalon.
Yeah, Avalon. Right. So essentially we were trying to figure out who were the saboteurs in the group.
And Avalon is just like a werewolf.
More or less.
Someone is the bad person.
Yeah, so you're trying to complete quests, and for each quest that is completed, the good guys get to move up in the board, but every quest that fails, that's a point to the saboteurs, and you have to figure out who they are before they kill Merlin.
Ah, very nice. Yes. All right, very good.
So what was your initial want to bring the heart rate into that?
I think I just wanted the fun aspect. I haven't seen anyone bring let me take a step back. There are hybrid digital board games out there, but the focus of those board games are very on the digital aspect, and I want to pertain all the physical elements in what we call the magic circle.
Yeah, yes. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, it's perfect. So we want to pertain everything into this realm, into the space, and we don't want to take away from that.
Right.
We want to find a way where we can introduce digital elements that can be an assistant when needed, or in my case, I just want to have fun. Initially, right now, obviously, this is going to be a question to answer later, to figure out if, heart rate does play an effect on your gameplay experience. Right? And especially important in a social deception game, where heart rate could tie to certain meanings. And I think this is going to be public, so I don't want to say too much until it is actually published.
Yeah.
But the roles you play in this board game, Avalon, actually matters for your heart rate.
Yeah.
So I can say that for sure.
Because I could see this thinking of, kind of what you're putting together, where if I'm watching poker online, they're hooked up to monitors. So like the people commentating would be able to see what their heart rate is doing to add that extra layer of like, well, they're probably bluffing because their heart rate's really high,
I had no idea
right?
that they used heart rates.
No, they could. I'm saying like that's
they could.
another
Okay, never mind. I thought they were
thing,
doing
right?
that already. I'd be like, wow, that's insane.
Because that would be really fascinating. Or just like you're watching esports and you're monitoring like, hey, who's like in control right now? Who's calm and collected, and that kind of thing. It's just like an added data point that could be interesting commentary or conversation around a point like that. Have you tried it in a genre other than social deception? Like, all right, we're gonna sit down and play Catan.
Catan, just watch your heart.
Which I guess is kind of it's
it's
kind of a social a social deception game in a way, right?
That's a good question, Tobin. You're asking great questions today.
Should you be writing these down?
Is there a whiteboard?
Just listen back, and there's the rest of your dissertation.
So have I used this application for any other purposes other than the board game?
Or just other genres of board game?
I originally wanted to bring this to D&D,
yes,
which is Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I wanted this to be a mechanism where it's adaptive. So as your heart rate fluctuates depending on each player, that accumulates to one sort of thing. I don't know yet.
Yes.
And that will dictate how the narrative goes in that game. So that's the initial idea. I talked to Leonard, and hopefully he's not hearing this. It's a bit complex to control those variables. Yeah. So for the goal of just graduating on time for the PhD, you got to scale down a bit, which usually what the supervisor says.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the original.
That's awesome. I love that idea because as soon as you said that, I'm like, all right. Because I was always the DM for D&D, and Sid, I think we've played.
Yeah.
I can never remember.
Solo sessions before, yeah.
Yeah. I could see this where like if I'm running a session as a DM and I see my character's heart rates, that could be like a targeting system for me, right? This monster that is very like tuned in through audio and stuff, like it can pick up this heart rate because it's higher.
Oh.
And so if you as a player can keep your heart rate low,
Bingo.
You're taking in a way like aggro off of you, right? Like this monster doesn't hear you. Different things like that.
So much more engaging on another level. Yeah. Oh,
and it would add like another mechanic, right?
Yep.
A different kind of.
You're being very
system.
spot on. I need to talk to. I need to write this down.
Start having Tobin Rassick go to the acknowledgement section.
You know the SpongeBob meme? It's like write that down.
Write that down.
That's me right now with everything that you're speaking facts. Love it.
I want to focus a bit more on one of the previous projects that you've done, which is Curioscape, which is described as an escape room board game that focuses on eliminating the rulebook. So why don't you introduce us to a bit more of that, because that's actually more or less completed and published.
Okay. I think the goal of that project, or the initial problem, was every time when I'm playing a board game with a group of friends, whether it's new friends, old friends, it's such a hassle to explain.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So for that project, we kind of streamlined. I think Ekaterina was one of my co-authors on that project.
Yes.
We wanted to streamline a way to start the game. So we were brainstorming on Mirror Board. It was during the pandemic, obviously a bit of struggle. What happens if we just figure out or put some sort of sensors onto the chairs? When players sit right down right now, the game would begin with an audio prompt. So there's no explanation of the games at all. Yeah. We decided on escape room because that's something that I love. I've never seen that done in a board game context or in a tangible thing. So that's one thing that we wanted to achieve. There are some limitations to that because of the technology. So things such as real-time feedback, there's a bit of delay because we're using really cheap sensors. I'm a broke student. So, yeah, but I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, that's kind of interesting of just even the idea of how we construct games and how easy is it for people to get into board games, especially those who aren't there for the rules or not really there for the more mechanical aspects of the game, of just being like, here's a game, sounds really interesting, I want to get in and play, and not have to be bogged down by like reading a manual for the next 20 to 30 minutes to figure it out, and still struggling for the entirety of the game to understand it. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that raises really interesting points about onboarding, if you want to use that term. I guess the more kind of apt would be tutorializing, and just how games can, some of them knock it out of the park when it comes to tutorials, but others don't. And I've been playing something, and it's like, it was a card game, and it literally was like, you press this button to play a card. And you're like, well, no, duh, right? And like, I always play games where it's like, use the left joystick to move around. Like, surely in 2023, we're past the point where we need to be told how to do that. Yeah. But I love this idea of just like, okay, is everybody ready? You sit down to start, and then like, it's this immersive experience, and it makes learning the game part of the game.
Exactly.
Play of like figuring out kind of the parameters and constraints, rather than just like, there's the one person who either knows, or you all are like scanning the PDF of trying to figure out the rules and stuff.
Have you thought about emotions being, especially involving emotions in physiological measures in this way, as part of being a more immersive experience to gameplay?
Yes.
All right, next question.
All right, next question.
Again, going back to the adaptive part, it's what I kind of focus in, and I think if we start incorporating these other I guess mechanisms of emotion, heart rate, temperature, can we build like an environment where it takes these measures of your body, or whatever you want to call it as, the physiological measures, and incorporate that into the game, so it feeds out a narrative or some sort of adaptation of what the players experience. So every time when you're playing that game, it's not the same based on the day that you're playing it. Replayability is one issue with board games, right?
Right now, you're just looking at heart rate. Are there other specific physiological measures you would love to get involved?
You need like a buzzer every time.
It can be ones that being like, you would love to do it, but you know feasibly it's not going to be possible. But
yes. I'd love to work with the BCI, which is brain-computer interaction.
Okay, cool.
Neural sensors in the head. What happens if you just don't do any movement and just use your brain to control certain actions?
Ooh.
But I think there's a bit of technology limitations there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
The Nintendo brain helmet or something.
Let's be real.
Right?
Nintendo would be moving in that direction.
Yeah, of course they would.
Of all the companies, they would be the one.
Yeah.
Not diverging too much of the conversation. Have you watched a show called Sword Art Online, where it's like you're in a VR headset gear and you're diving into this space?
The avatar in the game.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's lots of shows like that. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So similar to that, but
it's like Ready Player One.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's probably it.
You know, there's so many.
The non-anime version. Although that's arguably
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. Yeah. Literally James Cameron's Avatar.
Sure.
More or less.
Yeah. Do you have any comments for this? I kind of want to write this down. It's like a brainstorming session, like Tobin said.
It's always interesting that technology, as far as my understanding, is always displayed as a dystopian element, right? That is the bridge too far, where the immersion compromises the body of the user. So that I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Would I do something like that? Probably, because I think that's the ultimate VR experience, is to literally be like projected to that degree into another space.
Okay.
To a point where it's so physically real, like it involves like pretty much the entirety of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, very cool. I was always thinking of, just to simplify it, because Tobin's is, very forward thinking. Eye tracking. I don't know if that would do anything, of being like trying to focus on where people are looking at on the board, and you can kind of see where people are looking at.
Oh, that would be really interesting.
Especially for like, say, Settlers of Catan, you could try to see like
where this person keeps looking over here,
and where people are moving.
There's really fascinating studies in comic books about that.
Really?
Where people will they'll have, whatever, and they'll present panels, and they'll track to see like how do people actually read
comics.
It. Do they go to the balloons first? Do they go to the faces first? Do they,
especially
whatever?
if, say, someone is trained in the Western style of reading, which is left to right versus
and then they show
otherwise.
manga and they're like, what do I do? Yeah. I love that idea of just like what is most salient in the board and stuff like that. Yeah, there you go. Write that down.
Writing it down. Get your eye tracking equipment out here.
You said you're asking like, the questions that did you do a deep dive on me by any chance?
We do a little bit of a brief.
Okay.
Yes.
Eye tracking, yes, good point. I do plan to use eye tracking as I mentioned before in this board game context. We wanted to see if we start placing these digital elements, our players, like we had this talk earlier with cognitive demand and all that stuff, are players more enticed to focus on the digital aspect, where that might take away from the gameplay experience, right? Right. But we want to retain that gameplay experience, so that's important. So eye tracking might be a great way to track whether it's important for the gameplay experience to be focused in this magic circle, or is it more of like, is this even needed, right? Per se.
Yeah, because then, say if you're doing eye tracking, you would be looking for different types of facial cues to tick you off, rather than just trying to focus on, oh, is so and so's heartbeat rising suspiciously? Yeah. Very interesting.
There's got to be ways to do this digitally. Like I keep thinking about like, hey, if we have a controller that can measure our heart rate, right? Like those crappy treadmills that you're supposed to like hold on to. So if you're playing a game and your heart rate, something like what is it called? The Switch game that's the exercise game, Ring Fit.
Ring Fit.
Like that does that, right? And you have to get a certain heart rate to succeed, 3 stars, gold stars, whatever it is. So it's being used within like the fitness context, which obviously makes sense. But I love this idea of like making it a mechanic. So if we're playing Elden Ring and our heart rate is high, does that buff our damage?
Exactly.
Does that lower our damage? Are we more susceptible to poison, right? I think there's fascinating things you can do with that. But then it's like, well, what does that mean for the user?
Yeah.
How do they control that, or what are they being encouraged to do or not do based on how that's being implemented?
Yeah. There's a lot of applications that can go towards this. But yeah, that's pretty much the premise.
All right, very interesting. So let's focus a bit more onto, I guess, your general experience here at the GI. Let's go.
Are you like OG GI?
I'm not OG GI, but very close to OG GI.
Okay, so when did you become is it member? Is that the term?
Like member,
so out
resident, essentially getting when you go to pod.
Yeah, when did you get a pod?
2016.
Okay, so that's pretty far back. Yeah. That's before my time here.
Yeah, it was both of our times.
Really?
Yeah.
I joined in
until
2018.
Technically 2019.
Oh man.
I knew about it like back in like 2015 because I had general instructors that were PhD students here, but yeah.
So you're a while. Yeah, you're not as OG as somebody who's like Alex Fleck, who is like
OG.
That's OG. Yeah. But that's pretty far back. You might be one of the older or veteran or seasoned
students. Were you
whatever.
like one of the first more or less engineering / CS students to come on at that stage? Because I know that the GI started out with a lot of like humanities and English students.
I think I was introduced to GI by Leonard. And then I also joined the GI when Marcel was still here.
Okay,
yeah. So that's far back too. Did you do stuff with Marcel in undergrad as part of?
I wanted to. He did a lot of cool things. I also don't want to say too much about Marcel. I did hear that he streamlined his PhD in a couple of years, and he lost all of his hair.
Oh, we're gonna come back to that.
Can't do that.
Yeah, so I want to finish the PhD, and one of my goals is to keep my hairline as a
well, I feel
joke.
like you're doing a good job so far.
But yeah, so going back to the GI as a main topic, great atmosphere, great people like you two here.
Thank you.
The one bad thing.
Yes. We're getting the real dirt now.
The drama.
I don't think there is one.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I don't think there is one bad thing at GI so far. Obviously that might change over a couple of years. Who knows? But yeah, I don't see anything bad here at all. Yeah. Everyone's friendly.
How do you find running studies out of the space, especially since because you need to recruit active participants, and obviously COVID throws a lot of wrenches into that. So how do you manage is it just because you draw from the student body that's already here?
I think a lot of it comes down to the people that work at GI. They really emphasize on helping individuals, and they advocate for research more than anyone that I know. Not saying this because we're on the podcast right now, but great people. I don't think I would have finished my master's without their help, without them pushing for, hey, there's a study going on here at the GI, would you like to participate or volunteer even? So I really do thank all the people here at GI.
Have you had instances, perhaps in PhD or masters, where you're here and you're just like, I need the wind back in my sails, and you run over to Leonard's office and have a quick chat to get reinvigorated.
He's sitting next door.
I can't hear.
Okay, fair. He might listen to this, but I think just knowing the fact that I'm going back for my PhD, I already, like you said, I already know how the lab operates.
Yeah.
And I kind of have clear expectations on what he wants from a student already, at least from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that likes to have a lot of freedom, which, Leonard works great with that. So running back to his office on a daily basis, yes. But more of, does he have time?
Right.
So that's with every supervisor, not just with Leonard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant is like having them under the same roof as well must have its merits, and not like, oh, I need to go. I either send an email in here in 2 weeks, or I can walk there today and have a quick chat. But like literally is, like you said, he's right next door.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate the glass panels that were installed during the pandemic. That was nice.
So you guys have a nice little closed-in
Yeah.
pod now.
Okay, now that I'm thinking about this, so if you're depending on the type of person you are, if you're sitting on the other side, which is where you're sitting,
Yeah,
Kevin,
I know what you're talking.
I would prefer that side to be glass as well, but I know it's more of like a cubicle style, which
Yeah.
people are focused on.
Yeah.
So for my preference, I like to see faces. Like the social aspect is important for me.
I think there's a
But
bug.
for other people.
I see now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but for other folks, they might just be.
Oh, I
more
love being
focused.
closed off.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, I could buy a tarp and like
Oh
close off
my
the top
God.
and then have a flap. To the
Yeah.
point, right? That's like how far along I was to like, I don't want to see
Be
anybody
like
or be
zero
bothered.
isolation, just closed off from everyone.
Just quarantine
Yeah.
myself in there to
Yeah.
get work done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any studies that not you haven't designed but you've participated in that you fondly recall?
Phew. I think I participated in like 80% of the studies here at GI. So yes, the one that I recall the most is probably it's drawing a blur. I don't want to say anything bad about certain studies or good about
No,
certain
of
studies.
course,
So I don't
of
want to be
course.
could be very careful on how I phrase this.
Yeah.
I think Lily's study, because that's most recent. She's also working on onboarding stuff with AI.
Okay.
Mm.
And I think that's an interesting study.
Mhm.
I think she will be getting help from the GI in the next couple of weeks to get her study going.
No, there's a lot of like interesting studies, and that's kind of like what I like seeing here, because I don't do participant studies, at least not yet in my research, but knowing where my research is going, I'm probably not going to borrow from anyone in the GI. So it's just kind of nice to be pulled into randomly, hey, I just need to test the setup before I actually do a full-on participant study, just to see how it's working and just get to see what everyone else is doing, which is cool.
Do you run the Kai play gambit? Is that part of your thing?
Can we pass on this hot take? I was a volunteer for that
Okay.
last 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
On a surface level, I think the conference went great. On the behind the scenes level, I think there could have been some improvements to streamline the process a bit better. I won't go into details because I don't know who's going to be listening into this.
But it's also a massive endeavor, right? Like Kai,
also just
Kai play is
yeah.
the place to be for your discourse, right?
Yeah.
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 It's one of those big conferences that matches with what I'm
Is
doing.
it one that you try to go to every year or try to submit to every year?
I think in our lab particularly, we focus on two,
Mhm.
Kai play being one, the other one being Kai, which is basically a whole
The big
overview,
one.
the computer-human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious about like, because I've kind of fallen out of the conference thing of just, but it's not really a big deal for our discourses. But my understanding is if you're doing this kind of stuff, like Kai is the place to be.
Yeah, so
and
how
that kind of
would
stuff.
you say even demo some of the stuff that you're working on at conferences like these? Because your studies include a large physical component and a large technological component. So how do you kind of like show the conference goers like what it is you're doing to get feedback?
That's a really good question for the GI. I'd love to work with someone at the GI to help facilitate these demos. So kind of looking at both of you right now really closely. Yeah, but in the past, how we were showcasing these demos was actually from the game jams. GI
okay,
used to
very
host-
cool.
Oh,
That makes a lot of sense.
interesting.
Yeah, we say this collectively as GI. We used to host game jams, and I think we still do, but it's more off the radar recently.
It's more on main campus. The GI has only been home to the undergraduate game development club, and the game dev club usually handles the organization of game jams, and that's usually on main campus because they have more space over there, especially since I think because they're back in person, they just do it
Big
a lot
numbers.
more. Usually our members are also like captains of the game jams. At least that's been in the past, so I'm not sure if anyone is right now, but I know but I haven't really heard much word of game jams this term.
Yeah.
Because there's the big global one, which is in winter term, so.
Coming up fairly shortly, actually, in January.
Yeah, so. Interesting.
Yeah, so that was the only way that we can kind of showcase our research there, because, there's a bunch of gamers there. Most of our research here, or, game focus.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be great to have some feedback from people that actually play games.
Mm-hmm.
The demographic, basically.
Yeah. No, that's always good.
And do you participate in something like that as just a means of like, I'm going to put this on the back burner, I'm going to just kind of experience or play with something new and then go back to it? Like, I guess, like, do you do game jams as a palate cleanser the same way that you might go and participate in a study just to be like, how do you do it? And then you take some things and apply it to your own research or methodology.
Using it as like a free base of feedback.
That's a good question. I like game jams for the community aspect. I just do it more of a passion thing.
Okay.
So just relaxing, enjoying the atmosphere, just 3 days, making a game and having fun with friends. I'd love to push it more to research, but I also don't want to blur that line with what I like. So I think this might be becoming really normal to most PhD students, is that you start loving something, you start doing research about it, and you start thinking about it. Oh wait, this is more of work now. It's not.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying this anymore. So I want to be very clear and distinguish those boundaries and and try to balance that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. That's why I don't play D&D anymore.
Oh no.
Because it just came to the point where I'm like, no, this is literally just work.
Well, it is work,
on multiple levels.
Especially if you're the DM, you're basically doing
right.
all
I was
the
gonna
work.
say the scheduling is work, putting it together is work, sitting down is work, and then like thinking critically about it afterwards.
Thinking critically and making sure it's like makes sense to the theme, but also trying to be aware that your players are your players.
Yeah.
And they want things to be done a certain way.
That's Neil's fault. I'll blame Neil with that. So I guess following that line of thinking, let's say you've put in your 9 to 5 here, you go home, you have some dinner. What do you do to spend your time afterwards? Are you picking up Stardew Valley? Are you playing Starfield, or what kind of stuff occupies you for fun?
That is a very great question, Tobin. I spend most of my 9 to 5 driving.
Right, you're a commuter.
I'm a commuter.
Okay.
But outside from that, as a joke, I do play games, and one of the games I play still today is Dota.
Excellent.
Oh, you're a Dota player.
Yes, very toxic game, not friendly.
Well, it's like a genre that's toxic. Right?
Yeah.
Dota 2?
Yes.
Okay. I have some other friends outside of school and stuff who play it, and I'll watch them right through Steam. And I watch and I'm like, this makes no sense.
Yeah,
watch, and you think, and you're like, fabulous.
But it is such a
language
language and like discourse within that genre of like the mid lane. That's all I remember.
No. That's all you need to know.
Okay. The mid lane.
Yeah, I think to kind of answer that, it's more of a way for me to connect with friends.
Okay.
More than playing the game. So it's like we schedule once a week. Let's commit to this. We play a game. I really don't focus on the game as much. I just socialize.
Just
during
catch
that
up
time.
and
Exactly. So that's more of the important factor for me, more than the games actually. Yeah.
No, because it also gives because there's an interesting way in which people do play games of being like, do they stick with the original single player version of the game, or do they jump into the multiplayer at all? Which is always kind of interesting of where people like to go more. Because I know people who will just buy a game and just be like, oh, I'm only going to play the multiplayer version.
Right.
Of it.
Yeah, Titanfall 2. A lot of people do that. I had a weird experience over the summer where I watched Arcane.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The League of Legends animated series on Netflix. And then I got super into the lore and like the universe. Obviously, I didn't go and play League of Legends, but I'm playing all of the League of Legends adjacent games. So like Legends of Runeterra, Ruined King. There's a bunch of others that are coming out. They're putting together like a 2v2 fighting game, like Street Fighter style game.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so it's weird because I'm playing essentially what is the JRPG of League of Legends, right? That's Ruined King. That's what that one is.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the language is the same. So like they'll have like their own lane system in the game in terms of how combat works, and they'll have a lot of like the buffs and debuffs that are still in there. So I feel like if I went to League of Legends, I'd understand the mechanics, not still how to play it, because obviously it's a specific genre, but like I know enough of the kind of peripheral things that I could go to the source material and be like, okay, I know kind of how this works or how these characters work because I've interacted with them in a different space. And the only thing that I've seen as far as Dota, I think there's a comic series of it to build some of the world out, but there was an animation, was there not?
There was a Netflix show. I think.
Okay, there is.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I thought I saw.
Interesting. Yeah, no. Do you like say for adaptations, because this is always an interesting question. What's your opinion about video game adaptations into different forms of media?
I think it provides a fun way, like if you're really interested in that topic or that genre, it's a different perspective to kind of enjoy it from. That's granted you enjoy the game first,
Right?
And there's also like the other part of the spectrum where they take the adaptation and it's not exactly how you imagine it to be.
Yeah.
And it's totally not enjoyable at all.
Have you had experiences with the latter? Where you're like, oh, I'm super hyped for this, and then you watch or read or play, and you're like, oh.
Your dreams are smashed.
If we're talking about a movie, I think like all of the hot take, I think like animes that are live action adaptations. Are terrible.
Yes. Except for One Piece, I will fight to the death.
Oh, I love One Piece.
That One Piece's live adaptation was phenomenal.
I've heard a lot of
it's
things
so
about
freaking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like interesting because like usually when you're doing like video games to a different medium, they just never really work out. I would say Arcane is one of the rare examples where it works incredibly well.
Yeah, and that could be part of the argument of like they're not adapting the game.
Yeah.
They're adapting the
source
characters
material.
and stories
Yeah.
and right, they're building out and fleshing out the world. But it's the same thing of like, oh, we're going to make a Resident Evil movie. Well, the story of Resident Evil isn't really that exciting.
Well, it's also just the movies are their own thing. They're so far removed from what the games actually are.
Yeah.
Have you played any Resident Evils before?
It is the season.
It is the season. It is this is October when we're recording, so it's spooky season now.
Not yet. No time.
No time.
More research. You heard that right, Leonard.
Do you play any like horror games? Like in terms of like thinking about like say emotion and
heart rate.
And heart rate. That's like an easy choice to really see how it works.
Does Freddy's Friday Night count as a horror?
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Freddy's Friday Night.
Get
in the van, everybody. We're going to Freddy's Friday Night.
Yeah, I briefly played that with my little cousin. That was not a great experience for her. She's fairly young. Straight up screaming.
Speaking of adaptation, apparently the movie's garbage too.
Well, I mean, are we
4 out of 10.
Blumhouse, let's be real. You get what you get with Blumhouse, which is low budget horror.
I don't have any opinions on it.
No, it's kind of like interesting. Is it like just because you just don't like horror games or how they play with the mechanics, the stories, the vibes rather?
Yeah, let's go with that. The vibes. The vibes don't really match up to what I generally like.
What kind of emotions are you looking for in your games? What kind of vibes?
I think one of the key things when I was doing research was emotion contagion. So most of it was like, can I get you to be happy most of the time, right? So let's say if you're in a negative or bad state, for say in a game like Dota or League, you're being toxic to your teammates, for say, can I shape that experience and make you happier? Or there's a lot of hot takes on how I shouldn't use this terminology. Make you more eccentric in a different emotion rather than being angry or being very disruptive in the game, per se.
That'd be very interesting to try and like shift the emotions towards a more positive outcome.
Yeah,
and to potentially like negate feuding or other negative stuff with players.
Yeah, I'm having all these ideas now where like if you're feeling that and your heart rate's up, write down. Like the music will change.
Yeah.
So you get like lo-fi music instead, and then when your heart rate goes back down, you get normal music. Or like the color palette could change. Right, something like that.
I
right?
love you.
Have these more like visual and auditory clues that will help break you out of that.
Or if you're sitting in a chair, your gamer chair, and your heart rate's really high, you could start like you turn on the massagers.
Ooh,
right.
Okay.
You get the feet.
You get like the full
foot bath.
immersive experience of breaking out of your thought emotions.
Or like you just have to hydrate. Which probably is most of the cases of when people are cranky is
stops playing and tells you to go get a drink.
Yeah, you get a pause screen and then you have to like drink enough that the sensor knows, okay, it's at this level, we can keep playing.
Oh my god.
Tobin, you're hitting spot on all these.
I can fix
topics.
other people's problems, but don't ask me about my own research either.
It's great. I actually was working on a side project with music. Basically changing and shaping the music that it plays based on your heart rate. And I think one of the problems that this is a bit maybe cringy was like I wanted to tackle long distance problems. So if you have the other person wearing the heart rate, your heart rate would sync, and that would be like a song together. So you listen.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I think a lot of people are like resonating with that light thing, where you tap the light and they'll light up on the other end.
Yep.
So this is my idea of connecting the
That's
weird
cool.
cringy project on the side.
Yeah.
But it's much more interesting because it's very novel ideas of also how to connect and bridge players together essentially in ways that are very unique.
Yeah. But I'm also writing all the stuff that you set down earlier.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, you should be my PhD supervisor.
No, I'm really good at brainstorming because like I'm fascinated by this stuff, but I have no expertise in actually how to make it exist, right?
I think you have more
So I
more
can
than enough expertise right
I'm really
now.
good at throwing spaghetti at the wall, but I'm like, no, don't make me like plate it, right?
You got the
Mo-
book
Mom
smarts,
spaghetti?
but for application, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with physiological sensors.
Yeah, Neil said it's easy to design games, but it's hard to develop them.
Yeah.
So I'm a designer, not a developer.
That's great. It's great for me at least.
So we can talk about the GI a bit more, perhaps. Like when you're doing your research or your studies and stuff, is it like, again, and maybe this coming back to the magic circle, like that stuff stays here, or when you're in your car, are you like, are you still problem solving? I guess like how does the bubble of the GI as a research facility help your research? And I don't necessarily mean the community. I mean like physically the space. Do you find that when you get here, like, all right, it's time to work? Or do you get here like, hey, I haven't seen all you people for, how long? And it's...
Okay, hot take. I think it's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
Like even right now when we're having this fun podcast, I'm already thinking about research ideas with what you said earlier, right? So it's a bit part of that, and it's also a bit part of like the atmosphere as well. You get to meet people, you get to collaborate these ideas, articulate your ideas to other people, have Tobin for say give feedback on these wonderful, amazing ideas. So the space really helps. I think like if you were to compare this to maybe another lab, so I'm not downgrading anyone else's lab there,
Right.
the atmosphere is a bit different.
Yeah.
Again, the GI here, maybe not on topic, but we have a very diverse group.
Yeah.
We have we have people from different backgrounds, which allows you to think on a different perspective, right? Like you're from the design, like you said, you're really well versed in the design. Other people in the GI might be really well versed on the technical end. So when you're talking to these people here specifically here at the GI, you're starting to connect all of these ideas together, and you formulate that one magical moment.
Yeah.
Eureka.
I was gonna say if you find that you like are doing a bit better with in terms of your research projection because you're able to do you have access to people outside of your academic program, essentially, that Tobin is in English, I'm over in environment, you have a very wide range of different perspectives, so it's like it enables to take you out of your smaller research group and then gives you other perspectives outside of that.
Exactly. That really helps. I think that's the most important part here at GI. You have so many different perspectives to analyze this one thing. If I'm just, let's say, streamline it in engineering, my perspective of how I would design this would be totally different if I haven't talked to like everyone here, because engineering is like focus, get the product done, just focus on the aspect of one certain things. Whereas if we have this conversation right now, there's so many ideas that you can apply this certain application to that you might have not even thought of until you spoke to that person. And it's different per person too, I might say.
So what do you want to do once the PhD's done?
Oh, I just started. That's a hard question.
Push it down the road another 4
It's
or 5
my heart
years.
rate's spiking up, isn't it?
The stress of the future.
My honest answer is that as long as I have a financially stable career, that's the most important. Obviously, I'd love to become a professor at one point.
Awesome.
My end goal is to make education free here in Canada, which is a really hard goal. I do think that we should push for more more of that here.
Yeah.
But it really depends. I don't want to comment too much on that political area. But yeah, that's one of my main goals. If not, I will be figuring out what opportunities is available at the end of the PhD. So yeah.
No, it's super interesting. Like that, because it also kind of looks at, because you enjoy the teaching aspect from what I'm reading about this. So have you been able to? Are there any strategies that you employ with students that either you're TAing or teaching at all?
That's a great point. I'm going to go back to the GI about this. Is that you have so many people in the GI that they're also teaching too. And I'm learning different ways that people approach on how to teach a certain topic. There's hands-on, there's, just straight up lecturing, listening. There's more of tactile feedback, so you have to incorporate some sort of activity in the course. And as I learn from how people teach, I'm starting to accumulate all of these ideas and make up my own teaching style, if that makes sense. So I do want to eventually teach at one point. Right now, it's just focusing on the courses and getting the PhD done first, and then having a bit of time leeway to teach eventually.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Off topic,
Yeah.
but you should do all the CTE stuff.
CTE?
For
Center for Teaching Excellence.
Yes.
So you can do
apply for that for next term.
fundamentals and then the CUT
yeah.
program.
So I think it's a free certificate here at
Yep.
Waterloo, right?
Yeah.
Do it. It's worth it. I worked there for like 4 years, so
Yeah.
I got to put that in. If somebody's like, I want to teach, go. CTE will help with that. It's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's a course, if I remember correctly.
Essentially, yeah.
Are there any things you want to pass on to Joe in terms of teaching?
Yeah,
because you're the one who has the most experience here.
Yeah, that's true.
Knowledge.
You asked me that in like a term where I'm really struggling with my teaching, actually. So I'm like, I don't think I'm worth it.
This is great too. Then I can learn about your experience and what has given you struggles or problems.
Okay, so I'll outline it this term,
Okay.
which I guess is funny because you're in engineering. So I'm teaching an English course here, and I didn't know this, but the course was reserved for engineers.
Oh, okay.
And the syllabus that I designed for it was very creative based, right? We're essentially like writing D&D creatures and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And so I literally was like, day one, I'm really excited about this syllabus. Yeah, we're going to be a bit more creative, and like you're going to learn how to write academically, but it's not going to be this kind of like set rote templates and stuff.
Slog.
And they just were like ready to get their pitchforks and torches and be like, this isn't what we signed up for. But I don't know what I would have done differently unless I knew specifically there was going to be, 20 students who are engineering in this course. Okay. So there's been a lot of pivots. So I guess that's lesson number one is, as much as you'll hear professors and instructors say like the syllabus is the contract, it's the law, it can't be because you're creating it in a vacuum. You have no idea who's going to be in your class. You have no idea what their actual needs are. You know what the department's needs are.
Yeah. And
therefore you have to do certain things, but the way in which you achieve those outcomes has to be integrated into what the students are capable of. So that's lesson number two, or that's lesson number one. Number two is like, you really have to have a good kind of bag of tricks for a classroom, right? So there's some lessons where I'm like, all right, we're literally just going to write for like an hour and a half, and we just have to do the brute work of learning how to do that stuff. But then there was one, probably the most successful lesson is we talked about rhetoric and advertising. And the whole thing was like, I'm going to show you just a bunch of pictures and you're going to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down to say like, I'm motivated to go spend money, or nah, this doesn't affect me. And then we just talk about it, to talk about what about this is effective or not effective, and have that kind of stuff, right? And then the next day we do a gallery walk. So it's a different kind of activity. And the next day we do something else. So they're never just kind of like, oh, we're going to sit and listen for an hour and a half, right? If that's the expectation, I think the students are going to flounder a little bit.
Well, especially if it's an engineering course, but teaching them how to do English.
Well, and that's been the main struggle.
Yeah.
Is that there's this kind of discourse.
Yeah. Being like, why would I need to know how to write when I have ChatGPT to do the work for me? It's like, well...
Yeah.
People are going to know it's ChatGPT.
Yeah. You have to learn the rules before you can break the rules. That's always my philosophy on it.
Yeah.
And then find a way to use D&D and roleplay in your classroom, right? Because it's those hypotheticals that I think where the most interesting stuff comes from.
So you're, just to pinpoint off that, if it's not too off topic, do you gamify your course?
I try to. It doesn't always work, but there's certain students that will respond well to that in that sense.
Fair.
But what I mean is like, so one of the courses that I've taught in game studies, I was like, all right, today we're going to pretend to be Game Freak and we're going to fix Pokemon. And so for an hour and a half, literally they in groups, they just were like, here's our pitch for like the new Pokemon. But they had to apply, you know, how do we improve immersion? How do we improve community? Right? Like there were still kind of milestones or as an assessment, things that we talked about in the class. So in that way, they're role playing, they're making, you know, they're acting as a character in some way, so that they can do something that feels more applicable or more immediate than just like, oh, I have to write another 500 word like reflection or something, right? In that sense.
I mean, getting them to write like 250 words is like a struggle and a half.
Yeah, I definitely have to lower some word counts for future offerings, because some of these students, I'm like, literally, this is 150 words. Like, you can't do more than
you
this.
You can't do a paragraph? Like,
yeah,
come
it's
on.
tricky.
Come on, it should be a struggle at this point.
But I feel like that's COVID. And I guess that's the third lesson is like, remember, a lot of the students you're going to be interacting with
or the
lost
COVID,
a huge amount of schooling
especially
to COVID.
if it's like technically if it's like first year university, like forget it. They had no high school experience.
Yeah. No, I'm teaching somebody in I don't remember in which course this term, and I overheard them say, yeah, so COVID started like the day that I was supposed to do high school or something like that. And I was like, you literally didn't go to like you were never physically in your high school then, probably, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, right? So that style of education, which kind of is the onboarding for university, arguably, right? A lot of them don't have. And it's tricky, right? Because like their attention span is short.
Yes.
All that kind of, which is why you have to have all these activities to be like, all right, we're going to listen to me for 10 minutes and we're going to do
like
this.
Or like how I've been seeing a lot of other like PhD candidates do, where they invite a lot of guest speakers and guest lecturers to their classes, just for, again, added perspectives, diversity of comments, and it kind of also makes it a little bit easier on you to not have to think of another lecture of another 90-minute
28 lectures, whatever.
Yep. So that's kind of like the methods that I've seen. So as you continue in your degree, here's some words of advice.
I think I'm gonna start trying to gamify the course a bit. Like, I'm not sure if you were both doing your elementary school here or high school here.
In Waterloo region or just
in Canada?
Ontario?
Canada,
oh,
sure.
yeah, Canada for sure.
I remember back in elementary school, would be arrange a group, and we would have the teacher would tally points on which group did well. And which group did well.
That's super tricky,
God.
though.
So one of the reasons I'm thinking about that is that because you're now in a group and you're held accountable for all of your group members, right? So if one person is not performing well, they would have to help that person. So collaboratively working together to a common goal. And I know people hate group work, but this is more of like the lecture aspect of it.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Haven't figured that out yet. Maybe I should hook up everyone to a heart rate monitor and see if that changes anything.
Or get a lie detector. See if that's even more interesting.
Ooh, okay.
Even though, there's a lot of evidence saying that lie detectors aren't as,
work.
They're bunk. But you could get so many interesting readings if you had one.
Yeah.
All right. So as we come to the conclusion, and we really need to start asking this first.
Yes.
Okay.
Where can people find you online? How do they get in contact to find out more about your research?
How they can find me here at the GI.
Come down and say hello.
I am the only person with the Christmas tree at my pod. So it's very easy to find here at GI. In terms of online, they can reach me via email.
Okay.
I don't use any of these social medias. It's more of, they're non-research related.
That's fine.
So if you see a photo of me, like just, really in a non-academic form or professional form,
disregard it.
Yeah, just disregard that. That's not the right medium to reach me for research at all.
Yeah, and we'll add the email into the description of this episode, so that's where people can find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being great host.